Welcome back to another episode of Sports Nerds in the Morning. Today is Tuesday, March 19th, so we all know what that means. It's time to talk college basketball. I'm Josh Golden.
Joined by Dominic Stern,
Jordan Goldman,
Caleb Posner,
Malad Gaimi.
And before we get right into talking about March Madness, we got to talk about the big news of the day right before we get into it. Mike Trout got paid today. 12 years, $430 million. What do you guys think about this?
well deserved. Mike Trout is the best player in baseball. I know people, I happen to disagree, I know people who think he will be the best player of all time when he finishes his career. He deserved this money. If Bryce Harper's getting $13,330, Mike Trout easily deserves $12,430. This guy is that franchise. He is the entire Angels team. I don't care about Shohei Ohtani. I don't care about Albert Pujols. When you think of the Angels, you think of Mike Trout, and he's put up the numbers to get this contract. It's well-deserved. I'm happy for him. He deserves this payday. The city of Los Angeles, of Anaheim, is the city of Anaheim, I guess, Los Angeles Angels, whatever, is happy today. Their superstar staying there for 12 years. Fantastic contract. Go buy yourself a car, Mike Trout.
I agree
You
with
think
you,
he's buying a
Caleb.
car with $430 million? He's
What
buying
type of car
50 cars.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Caleb. For the market right now, he definitely deserves that money. But obviously, nobody's worth $430 million. Dom said that a ton of times in previous podcasts. Nobody's worth 430. Nobody's worth 275. Nobody's worth 230 million for anything. I mean, it's absurd. But for the market that it's at right now, Mike Trout has definitely earned it. He's the most consistent baseball player in the game. He will be a Hall of Famer, best player.
So you don't think any individual player, is Dom or Jordan, is worth $430 million?
No.
because if you're a pitcher, you pitch every 5 games. If you're a hitter, you hit 4 times a game and you play defense and whatever. There's no reason that those players should be worth anywhere near the money they're getting. But what Jordan said is correct, considering where the market is at right now and considering the money these guys have been paid. Mike Trout's contract is appropriate when it comes to that.
Right.
And I agree that he will be the best player ever.
Mind
when
you,
it's
they
all
only
said and
play
done.
6 months, too, so that's an add-on.
I'm not going to agree or disagree with what Dom said. I'm just going to state a fact real quick. There are 8 NHL franchises that are worth less than Mike Trout's contract. Just saying.
Is Buffalo one of them?
They are, actually. It's just an incredible stat when you think about it. Mike Trout has enough money just from this contract to buy an NHL franchise. That's insane.
And the crazy thing is really that there's a reason for that, which is that the NHL is less popular than Mike Trout. Mike Trout brings people to Angels games. So, Dom, while I agree performance-wise, no player theoretically should be worth that, where else is the money going to go? The
Right.
team's making that much money. So why not go to Mike Trout? I'd rather have it in Mike Trout's pocket than the owner's pocket.
Well, there's nothing else that the Angels could do. I mean, if they offered any less, Mike Trout wouldn't take it because there would be a team out there to give him $400 million because of the market that's set right now.
I mean, the only thing the Angels have to sell to players in free agency is Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Because,
Disneyland.
that's not much to sell because these players can spend all the time in the off-season at Disneyland. So
They could take a private jet to do
Yeah.
that.
No, it is Mike Trout. Dom's right. It's
Mike
literally come play with
That's
the
how
best
they got
player in
Ohtani.
baseball.
no,
And that's not
No.
that's it.
Part of it.
no,
No,
you're 100% wrong. It's Mike Trout, and he's obviously the greatest player right now. He will go down as one of the greatest players ever if he keeps this up. And
Excuse me.
I think we've nailed it on the head. So let's move on to March Madness. First games start tonight. It's the first 4. Tonight we got Belmont and Temple, and NC Central. Sorry, Francis Dickerson versus Prairie View.
Hey, it's Fairleigh
Fairleigh
Dickinson.
Dickinson.
Fairleigh Dickinson.
And
Fairleigh Dickinson's winning it all this year. I got my money on Fairleigh Dickinson.
And before we get into the specifics of all these games, who we think is going to win, so on and so forth, I want to get to something a little more bland for a second. When you get into this tournament, when you're looking at the bracket every year, not just this year, what are some of the qualities in the team you're looking for? Like, what do you like to see in a champion?
They're
So-
hot. Oh, sorry, Molly.
So what I think makes a good team that's going to go far in the tournament, I think number one, it starts off with veteran leadership. You need seniors on the team. Duke has a lot of freshmen and they have a lot of talent, but they still need people with experience, and I think experience really helps in this tournament. Another thing I look for is having good depth off the bench, because foul trouble or something that happens, injuries happen in this tournament, and a team still needs to be able to move forward with that. The other thing I look for is 3-point shooting. To me, 3-point shooting is big because in college basketball, you see a lot of 2-minute intervals where a team doesn't even score a point.
Mhm.
And that's where the runs can happen. So if you have a team who can get hot quick, hit a lot of threes, that's a 9-0 run, just 3 threes, and now you're back in it. Upsets happen like that. To me, I think seniors, the 3, depth, and then my last thing would be, it's not as necessary, but I think having a big man with size and length is really important because, for example, UCF, right, with Taco Fall, they have a really tall guy. A lot of teams
7'7".
A lot of teams are not going to match up with this guy, have a guy to match up with him, okay? So I think that causes a problem because now you have a lot of energy going to him. You have to pay a lot of attention to him, and if he gets an offensive board, that's almost an automatic 2 points.
Mhm.
And I've watched the clips. He just passes it to himself. Every miss, he just
Yeah.
goes and gets it and puts it back up.
He's just trying to pad his stats,
Yeah,
It's easy.
Why not? Double. Just throw the ball off the backboard and catch it again. Why
exactly. So those are the key qualities that I look for in a team. Obviously, it's very rare to find a team that is great in all 4, but I try to look for those things, and that's how I make my decision.
To add on to what Milad said, I agree with all of those qualities, but the ones that are really important to me, I think there's 2 that really stand out to me. One is you have to be hot coming into the tournament. Teams that are hot coming into the tournament tend to make runs. They tend to do well. A lot of the Cinderella stories tend to be teams that came into the tourney hot and just kept that momentum going.
That's why
Loyola
12
Chicago-
seeds are always successful.
Exactly. Loyola Chicago last year, for example, they had momentum. They just kept up with that momentum going forward. So that's one thing I think you really have to have a hot team going in the tournament. 2, you need a guy. I agree with Milad that you need depth, but you need a Zion Williamson.
Mhm.
You need
You need
Luke
a
May.
Kemba Walker.
You need a Kemba Walker, a Shabazz Napier, Tucker Fall. You need a guy. You need one guy that defines your team, and it's not enough to have just one guy to win. But if you look at most March Madness champions, they have a guy.
leader. You need a leader. Not necessarily a guy who can get it done on the floor better than anyone else on the team. A guy who everyone on the floor is going to play for.
And to your point of getting hot, Caleb, Michigan last year lost some games that they shouldn't have, and they looked a little bit shaky as a team. But they came into that conference tournament and they won every game. They got red hot, and to me, I think that carried them to the championship.
I absolutely agree. And then you look at last year's champions, Villanova. Jalen Brunson was their guy.
Mhm.
He was their guy. He was definitely the best player on that team, one of the best players in the country. And it ended up being Dante DiVincenzo in the championship game that carried the team. But without Brunson, they're not getting there. Which is why I think a lot of people have Duke this year, because everyone thinks Zion is not just their guy,
Oh, he is the guy.
the guy of the entire NCAA.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
He is that Duke basketball team.
him and RJ. And I just want to make a comment on that Michigan team last year. I don't think they played a single seed team until the Elite 8 last year, so that also helps. But what you're saying about them getting hot is correct. I just want to
That helps to get hot when you
Point
have
that
some
out.
competition.
Loyola Chicago's a tough team when they win that many games in a row.
No, they weren't even they weren't even
Yeah.
they were a double digit seed. In the Elite 8 they played a 9 seed.
That's true.
So I mean that's just one point. But what I need to see in a team is veteran leadership and depth off the bench. Those are the 2 important things in my mind.
Now, for me, there's 3 big things that I like to look at. I like to see veteran leadership, obviously. I like to see that they have a lot of reliable scoring options. They have 3 or 4, maybe even 5 guys who can average double digits. And I like to see a team that can just hustle harder than anyone else on the court. Like, you can always know that they're going to be diving for loose balls, that they're going to be running harder than the other team, that they want it more than whoever else is on the court. So now that we've sort of wrapped up that discussion, we're going to dive into this bracket. Let's start off with the East region. That's headlined by Duke, followed by Michigan State, LSU, and Virginia Tech. So what do you guys think about this region? Who do you see coming out of here?
This region, to me, is very interesting for a couple reasons, because you have Duke as the obvious 1 seed, number 1 overall seed in the entire bracket, Zion Williamson. I don't really want to talk about Duke that much because Duke gets talked about all the time. I really want to talk about Michigan State and LSU, because these are 2 really good teams that have both suffered a handicap coming in to this tournament. Michigan State obviously lost their power forward to a gruesome injury in that conference championship game against Michigan. They came back to win that game. but that can be a momentum killer. An injury like that, that's something that is very, very, very dangerous to momentum. And then LSU doesn't have their coach.
Mhm.
The
Or their head assistant coach.
Or their head assistant coach. LSU is one of the best teams in the country, in my opinion, when they have their coach and assistant coach. Without that, who knows what that team's going to accomplish. So I think with those top 3 seeds, I think it's going to be one of them. I really don't see any of the other seeds coming out. I think that those three teams are too strong. But I think it's going to be interesting how it plays out. Ultimately, I think Duke is coming out of the East, but I think Michigan State and LSU are wild cards.
I want to stop you right there. Why can't Virginia Tech beat Duke?
I think that Duke is just too good to beat Virginia Tech. I know Virginia Tech beat Duke earlier this season. I think that Duke has momentum after winning the ACC. I think that was a huge win to come back and beat North Carolina, to get Zion back, to go in that run, and Duke is going to carry that into this tournament, and they are going to come out of the East. I don't see Virginia Tech stopping them.
I agree with you. I think that Duke will overcome playing Virginia Tech in the Sweet 16. I think that's what's going to end up happening. But I do think Virginia Tech's going to put up a good fight against them. Yes, they beat Duke without Zion, and everyone's going to say they're going to have Zion back, they're going to win. Virginia Tech played that game without their best player, Justin Robinson, as well, and they still came out on top. We'll see what happens. It's going to be a close one. Duke should come out of there, but don't be surprised if Virginia Tech upsets.
Yeah, well, I mean, Virginia Tech, they're a great team. They're, like you said, they're getting Justin Robinson back, so that's going to help. He's going to lead their offense, but they have to beat St. Louis first, and then if they win that game, they have to beat Liberty and Mississippi State. Those are 3 good teams. St. Louis, they just had a miraculous run to win the A-10. Liberty, they beat Lipscomb, who's a great team.
Almost got in at large.
Yeah, that's true. So, but I really like Yale to possibly upset LSU, and I really like Belmont to possibly make the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8. Assuming they win tonight. I'm assuming they're going to win tonight, because I don't think Temple's very good.
Yeah, and, I agree that Virginia Tech, just going back to that very quickly, I agree that Virginia Tech's going to put up a fight, and I like, sometimes I like seeing those teams that don't have the cleanest schedule, they didn't have, the best wins, but they're always putting up a fight, and they always got a chance, a wild card type team. My issue is, they're 3-6 against the top 25, and, considering one of those wins is against Duke, obviously that's huge for them, but for me, I hate having 1-2 in my Elite 8. I'm not a huge fan of that. To me, that's not fun.
It's too much chalk.
I don't like it. But I do really like Michigan State and Duke, and I think it's going to be one of those 2 coming out of the East, barring any, injuries or anything crazy to happen that we can't predict at this time.
Yeah, and I mean, I can never trust Michigan State after the past couple of years, how they've let me down so much.
Right.
Denzel Valentine.
Our freshman year, they were a 2 seed and they lost first round. I had them losing the final. Last year, I had them losing the final, and then they lost to Syracuse somehow, because that Syracuse team sucked. Still do.
They still suck, and they weren't that good last year, but they find a way to win in the tournament.
I know, it's unbelievable.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
But they're good this year. They're hot. They're the only team, I think, that's a top seed that won both their regular season conference and the conference tournament. So they've got a lot of momentum coming in. They just got Ward back. He's one of their best players. They're a good team, but I haven't been a big fan of Duke all year because I said they're a 2.5-man team. But looking at this region, I think Duke's got to be the favorite by far.
So then, hop on down to the West then. You saying Duke's going to be the favorite. Let's analyze who's Duke playing to make it to the national championship then. Dom, in your opinion, who's coming out of that West region?
The Zags. I love Gonzaga. Like I said, the 2 things I highlighted earlier that I want to see in a team, veteran leadership and depth. They have a lot of depth, and they have almost all 5 of their starters are returning, right? Hachimura, he's a stud. Tilly, he's a beast.
Spectacular.
With Perkins, he's a great point guard.
Perkins is great. Brandon Clark can shoot the ball pretty well. They got Zach Norrell, who's been playing well.
Yeah.
They could be a dangerous team, but in the round of 32, they're going to get a tough test against Syracuse. If they beat Baylor, we all know that Syracuse at their best can beat anyone. Will they be at their best? Probably not, but they're always a tough test. We'll see what happens.
Josh is right. Syracuse has been the bracket buster year after year. Boeheim, who knows what he does, but somehow Syracuse comes into the tournament every single year
It's remarkable
manages
because you only
to-
play 7 guys.
to
but
make it far. For me, the top half of the entire West region, I think the West for me is the hardest one to predict.
not even close. I think it's by far the hardest one to pick.
I think you have Gonzaga, Michigan they lost the conference championship, but they're a phenomenal team. They're hungry after last year. Them and Gonzaga both.
They've got like 5 or 6 losses, and 3 of them are against
Exactly.
Michigan State.
Exactly. Then the 3 seed, Texas Tech, has the second best defense in the country behind Virginia, and they have an incredible team. That last year Keenan Evans led their team, but this year they're better, and they could upset there. And even at 4, Florida State is phenomenal. FSU had a fantastic season.
One of 2 teams to beat Duke all year.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Wait, no.
No.
That
Should
was
have
wrong.
beat Duke. They
Never mind.
should have beat Duke.
Sorry, one of 2 teams to beat UVA. Sorry.
Correct.
Apologize, yes.
And they almost beat Duke. Cam Reddish had a game-winning 3 down in Tallahassee back in January.
And I think there's a lot of openings for surprise in this region as well, and that's what I really like about it. For me personally, I'm a fan of Buffalo this year. I really hope that they go far.
Josh, stop
I'm a
laughing,
Buffalo
please.
guy. Murray State Marquette. We all know that's going to be a fun one. Everyone's excited for that matchup.
Howard versus John Morant.
Yep. And then on top of that, I like Michigan. I think Michigan's going far. I had my prediction, in the past podcasts that we've done. I think they're going far in this. I don't know about Final Four, but they still have a tough matchup in Nevada. They still have tough matchups after that. So I'm interested to see how this plays out. But this is going to be a fun region to watch. I don't know if it's going to be fun to bet on because you just don't know.
Oh,
what's
it's going to be a
happen.
tough one.
I think you guys are sleeping on Nevada a little bit.
They are. The Wolfpack.
I know Dom was over here. He wants the Wolfpack. Nevada is a great team. Okay, I know they lost to SDSU. That this and that SDSU. No, they are a good team. The Martin twins are just out of this world. They are so good. Okay, I think, in my opinion, they're gonna beat Michigan in the second round. That is in my opinion. Obviously, that could be a bold prediction in some of your minds, but I think you guys are sleeping on Nevada.
So they beat Michigan. Do you think they beat Texas Tech then too?
Yes.
Or whoever
Yeah.
makes
Yes,
it.
because
I
they
think
play
they-
great defense. And listen, dude, all 5 of their starters are seniors or 5th-year seniors, and every single one of them is 6'7" or taller. They are a matchup nightmare.
Dom,
Can I tell you?
I
my
will
issue
put
is-
a-
Stop.
I will put a side bet on right now with you that Nevada does not beat. Doesn't even beat Michigan. If it gets to the Texas Tech
I
game,
think they
I'll
go to
put
the
more-
Final
I'll double
Four.
or nothing it with you.
Can I tell you why
We'll talk about that
Nevada
after.
will not beat Texas Tech? Because they will not play Texas Tech.
I agree.
I think
100%.
Buffalo
I-
will win 2, 3, maybe even 4 games this tournament. I think they are just a spectacular team. Like I said
Biased.
earlier in this podcast, the 3 things I look for are veteran. Don't call me biased just because I'm rooting
Biased.
for the Buffalo team, okay? Listen to me right
Biased.
now.
Biased.
You look at everything I look for in a basketball team. Senior leadership. You got spread scoring. They got 3 guys averaging over 14 points a game. And they play harder than any team in the country. And I really think that this team has something to prove. This is a bunch of seniors looking to make an impact in their last year at school. CJ Massenberg is absolutely spectacular. Nick Perkins is a beast. I think when we get to this tournament, they have something that they want to prove. They won a game last year. I think they could do even better this year.
So, when I was originally making this bracket on Monday, I selected Buffalo to win their second game against Texas Tech. But then I was looking at it closely, and that region is played in Oklahoma City. And playing Texas Tech in Oklahoma City, it's basically a home game. Because, let me tell you, Buffalo's not going to travel very well. And Texas Tech is going to take the 3-hour drive up to Oklahoma City for the weekend, and they're going to be loud. That's what happened last year. Florida had them, but that home crowd propelled Texas Tech in that game in Dallas. And I think that's going to happen again because, trust me, Josh, I've watched a couple games of this Buffalo team, and I'm high on them. But when I saw that, I'm like, okay, do I really think Buffalo is going to beat the second best defense in the nation basically at a home game? It's tough. It's a tough call, man.
I think I agree with you. It's definitely a tough game to call. I think Texas Tech is going to be their biggest test. I think Buffalo got absolutely screwed by this committee. They absolutely should be a 5 seed. and they're playing the best 3 seed in my eyes as well. They got absolutely screwed by this committee. I still think they'll make it through. They just have something they need to prove, and I think they're going to prove it.
So a couple things off of that. Number one, I agree with you. I don't know why Wisconsin's a 5 and Buffalo isn't. To me, in my
Couldn't
opinion,
agree with you more.
in my opinion, I would flip the 2 in a heartbeat. Now, to the point with Caleb about Michigan beating Nevada, I understand that they all are 6-7 and up, but the one team that causes nightmare matchups up front is Michigan. They have multiple bigs. They have a guy who is the Big Ten Player of the Year over Cassius Winston, who can extend from 3, still rebound, is just a flat-out scorer, okay? He had a great tournament, great game against Michigan State, even though they lost. I mean, Simpson at point guard, veteran, leader, he's done a great job. He's a gifted passer. Then you have Jordan Poole, who we all know everyone's high on, especially after last year's tournament run.
What a shot.
I mean, it
That was
crazy.
a shot right there.
So, for me, I do like Nevada. I like them as a team, but I have Michigan. I have Michigan winning some games, and I agree with you, Dom, about Texas Tech, but I don't know. I have a funny feeling about Buffalo, and I think they're a good team this year in the tournament.
So I think that the West, we've decided, is definitely the hardest region to predict. I think the easiest region to predict is the Midwest.
Mm-hmm.
That region is, to me, very weak after even the 2 seed. I think Houston has been streaky all year. They got a 3 seed. I don't know how much they really deserve that 3 seed.
They've lost
over
3 games all
some
year,
teams.
and they lost their conference championship for the 2nd year in a row to Cincinnati. And Cumberland dropped 29 points in that game.
One of the
So,
best players in the country, Jaron Cumberland.
So,
Spectacular.
I mean-
but continue.
what you're saying about Houston getting a 3 seed, I think they're the weakest 3 seed. Purdue is the weakest 3 seed.
Purdue is the weakest 3 seed.
Yeah.
But Houston's a very good team. They're very, very deep, very well coached. I just don't know about them because they've lost 2 games in the past month. And for a team that plays in the American Conference, that's a little shaky.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
thing about this Midwest region, though, that's really fascinating to me is you look at the 5, 6, and 7 seed,
Yeah.
Auburn, Iowa State, and Wofford. These are 3 teams that are looking pretty darn hot right now. If they really can reach their full potential, they can win 3 games in this tournament easily.
And me personally, the 2 teams that I looked at and I felt are going to go far in this tournament are Auburn and Iowa State. And the big one for me is Auburn because, in my opinion, they had a shaky start to the season. They had some losses that don't look great on the resume. But like we talked about, we look at how they do in their conference championship. They went into the SEC. They had a couple close games in their tournament, but they pulled them out. And then the game against Tennessee really sold me. I was sold after that game against Tennessee. The way they run up the floor, the fast break, the 3-point shooting. I like this team. I think they're really going to shock some people. And, I've heard good things about Iowa State. I probably need to look into their team a little bit more. But I think they're going to go far in this tournament.
I want to
as well.
stop you for a little about Auburn. I think they're definitely a team to watch. I think Bryce Brown and Jared Harper are one of the best guard duos in the country. But you look at that game that they had against Tennessee on Sunday. Yes, don't get me wrong. Absolutely impressive to beat Tennessee by 20. But you look at what Tennessee had to do literally the day before, playing in one of the toughest, hardest games I've seen all season against Kentucky. They were so exhausted after that game and you saw that in the first half. It was a pretty tight game, and Auburn just crazy pulled away in the second half. I think Tennessee just simply ran out of gas.
Yeah, I agree with you, Josh. We're not discrediting Auburn by
No,
any
still
means,
a spectacular win. I still think they're a great team.
but it should not have been a 20-point game. I
Yeah.
feel like that's what we're trying
I
to do.
agree. Yeah, and for me, my favorite team out of there is Auburn. I mean, obviously North Carolina has the resume, and I'm not the highest on Kentucky. Obviously, they deserve the 2 seed,
But
but I
How
don't
can
know
you
about
not be
Elite
high
Eight.
on Kentucky?
Kentucky's been phenomenal all year.
It's Kentucky. It's
you-
Kentucky.
They choke every year.
No, they don't.
I do.
No, they do not. You just talked about 3-point shooting at the beginning of this podcast.
Yeah.
Kentucky's one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country.
They
Tyler-
have 6 losses this season. 4 of them are to teams that are top 3 seeds.
Exactly. Kentucky is phenomenal this year.
PK Washington is so good.
He's the best big man in the country, and it's not close. It's not
It's
close.
not close.
Absolutely.
He's spectacular.
And combine that with the outside shooting.
Correct. Tyler Herro, Keldon Johnson, Reed Travis is a baller as well. This team can get it done.
And they bring that guy that's from Jamaica off the bench, Chris Richards, I think. Is that his name? Nick Richards.
Nick Richards.
He's so good defensively.
So
They're a scary team.
which is what I was gonna say. What
Shoot
the point I
36%
want to make
from
about the
downtown.
Midwest was: look, you bring up Auburn and you bring up Iowa State, and you bring up Wofford, and I agree these are good teams with momentum. For me, it's Kentucky or North Carolina.
Yeah.
I think those teams
Unless
are
one of those
too
three
talented.
teams really just clicks.
Even if one of those teams really just clicks,
It's about the
E-
matchups too. That's what you have to.
I
remember.
understand it's about the matchups. North Carolina matches up against every single team in this entire region. North Carolina lost to Duke in the ACC championship by 1 point, beat Duke twice already this season. Yes, Zion was not playing, and Zion was back for this game. But when North Carolina, when they're on, I think they're the best team in the country.
Yeah.
I really think North Carolina is the best team in the country. Kobe White, amazing. Luke
Needs
May,
a haircut. But
Needs a haircut.
Needs a haircut so badly.
Luke May, veteran leader. Nasir Little off the bench.
Beast.
It's ridiculous. Cameron Johnson at small forward.
So good.
It's that team is so deep, and I really think that even though I just said Kentucky's really good, North Carolina's coming out of the Midwest, and I
Good.
really don't think anyone's beating them.
I just don't see anyone stopping PJ Washington. I just don't
Yeah,
think anyone's going to be able to stop
There's no
Kentucky.
one in the country that matches up with PJ. And so my problem with North Carolina, this is what sold me on Kentucky going to the Final Four over them, is that North Carolina is very, very streaky from three. And as Malad said earlier, you need to make threes to make runs, because every team's going to go on a run. Even the 16 seeds go on like a 8-0 run at some point. So you need to be able to shoot threes. I'm not saying North Carolina can't, but they've been somewhat inconsistent when shooting threes. And they're a very good team. The only team I see beating them before the Elite Eight is Auburn. And it's just funny because we're not even talking about Kansas.
It's crazy.
It's crazy.
really crazy.
Because every year they're a 1 seed or a 2 seed, and everyone's picking them to go to the Final Four, or most people in your pool are.
Mhm.
And no, I'm losing the first round of Northeastern, who
It could happen.
Who I think's the worst 13 seed, and it's not even close. Who's
Yes.
Well, name a 13 seed that's better than them? UC Irvine, St. Louis,
You mean worse
Vermont.
or Vermont?
Vermont's worse than
No, Vermont's good. They beat UMBC by 20.
them. UMBC should have won that game.
than UMBC. Oh,
As
they
we
should've
we
got-
still found a way to bring up UMBC. in this
UMBC should
podcast.
have gotten an automatic bid.
Absolutely.
Automatic
How
bid
about
for
Loyola
UMBC.
Chicago? They made it to the Final Four.
Just a quick PJ Washington stat I need
They're
to bring
winning
up.
at half.
Since January 15th, there has only been one game PJ Washington has had where he did not put up double-digit points, where they still won against Arkansas and he put up 9 points.
And he was in foul trouble early in that game,
Uh-huh.
and they had to come back down 20. So
So look, I agree with you. I think it's gonna be between UNC and Kentucky. You two have Kentucky, Dom and Josh. I think North Carolina's unstoppable.
I agree.
So
That's just interesting to me, though, because you mentioned that you love to see a team where one guy can just put the team on their back and carry them when we
And
get to
that's
March.
Kentucky.
I think that's PJ.
and the thing is, I agree with you. That's PJ, but I think that North Carolina, Luke May for me is the guy. He is such a leader for that team.
Luke Mason.
And it's funny because he might not even be the best player on that team. Kobe White is a pure raw scorer. Cameron Johnson's an incredible two-way player. Plays great defense and has an amazing shot.
Cameron Johnson's one of my favorite players in the country.
I love
I
Cameron
love him.
Johnson. And then you bring Nasir Little off the bench.
Yep.
Nasir Little's going to be a top 10 draft pick this year, and he comes off the bench to score for you.
It's insane.
I just don't think I agree with you. PJ is incredible. I'm not sure how Luke May is going to match up against him, but I think UNC's too deep and has too many of those guys.
And that's just what makes March Madness great. Is you get these two teams that are powerhouses every year, and we have to debate about who's going to make the Final Four or not. That's what's so
Spectacular.
fantastic.
And it's why it's the most fair tournament system. It's
Exactly.
the most fair.
I was watching Jay Billis talk about it on Sunday. All these teams that didn't make it and are complaining about it, like the NC States, you can say whatever you want to this team. From the best team in the ACC, like a Duke, North Carolina, Virginia, whoever, to the worst team in the Sun Belt Conference. Every single team has an opportunity come the start of the season to make the tournament and win the tournament.
Fairleigh Dickinson will play tonight for their chance to potentially, obviously they're a 16 seed, it's not going to happen, but they could be champions.
That's what I said about
Theoretically.
UMBC last year.
No, in theory, Fairleigh Dickinson could be champions.
Correct.
Like we know they're not.
Never gonna happen. but
never
still
happened.
incredible.
But they have a chance. They technically have a chance. They're in this tournament. That's fair. That is fair at its finest. It's better than a college football playoff system where you get 4 teams. There's so much bias in this conference and that conference. You look at this pool. There are 68 teams.
I agree. Absolutely. Now, let's move on to the South region. That one's headlined by UVA. We got Tennessee, Purdue, and K-State there as well. Who do you guys see coming out of there?
I think it's very top and bottom heavy. I think the middle is kind of eh. I think that
Law's about to kill you because you said Villanova's not good, but okay.
You didn't even let me finish talking, Josh. Thank you. That's our lovely friend Josh for you. But for me, Virginia and Tennessee are teams that can beat anyone and still lose to anyone.
Right.
Virginia is hungrier. They lost to UMBC last year. They're not going to lose to the 16th seed again. I think this Virginia team is better than last year. But Virginia's a team that their defense gets it done. But if you can just shoot against Virginia, you can beat them. It's hard to do that. That sounds much simpler than it is. But if you can shoot the ball well against Virginia, you can beat them. Tennessee, you talk about senior leadership, you talk about veteran leadership.
Yep.
The best veteran leadership in the country.
And it's not even close.
Admiral Schofield.
The Admiral.
The Admiral.
The
Jordan
Admiral,
Bone.
the
The Bone.
Alien,
The Alien.
and
And
the Bone.
Grant Williams,
That
the
is
Bone.
the best trio in the country right there.
Not
Yep.
even close.
And so those are my 2 teams that I really think are obviously favorite. And again, like 1s and 2s are favorites. But those are 2 teams that I think are really strong. And then Cincinnati can beat teams. I could see Cincinnati beating Tennessee. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yep.
But Cumberland's incredible.
She's spectacular.
Iowa sucks, so
Iowa
they're gonna
sucks,
win.
they're gonna win. Okay? But Purdue's not that good. K-State's missing their best player. Wisconsin's
He might come
not-
back. Dean Wade might come back.
Wisconsin's really not that spectacular.
I love Ethan Happ.
They're not
Everything
deep though.
around him.
Exactly. Ethan
He's the
Happ is
second
not
best
deep.
big man in the country.
Nova, I know Malad, they're the defending champions. They have a very easy seeding against St. Mary's, and if they win, probably Purdue.
Or Old Dominion.
Don't count out St. Mary's.
Old Dominion.
Old Dominion.
Old Dominion.
Well, it's fine. Old Dominion, possibly.
ODU.
But when I say bottom heavy, I look at UC Irvine, I look at Oregon as 2 teams that could be your Loyola Chicago's this year.
Yeah.
They got favorable seeding. They might play each other, and then Virginia.
I wouldn't be
they'll have
surprised
to
if
play
they do play each other.
I wouldn't be surprised either. And then
I have
they'll probably have to play Virginia in the Sweet 16. So I really think that this region is top and bottom heavy with some of the best bottom seeds and some of the best top seeds. But everything in the middle for me is kind of, there's no really Auburn, there's no Wofford, there's no team that I really see making a deep run. I think Nova has the best chance to make the Sweet 16 and potentially even the Elite 8 of those middle seeds. But I really don't see it happening. I see it being Tennessee versus Virginia in the Final Four, and
Elite
I think Tennessee
Elite
in the Elite 8.
Yeah.
My bad. And I see Tennessee moving on to the Final Four.
So, let me just say that I appreciate the respect that is being given to Villanova.
Because
at this
we have
point
not
in
been
the
giving it all year.
And I just want to say that, this team lost a bunch of guys to the draft. And seniors that graduated.
This
So-
could be Jay Wright's best coaching job.
Listen, I get crap for it, but I'm a fan of Jay Wright. I like the system that he puts in. For me personally, a team that can run a 3-quarter press with 8 minutes left in the second half, go on a run, slow the game down. That's what I love about college basketball.
Syracuse, they do that.
Exactly. The 3-quarter press to me is one of my favorite things to watch because a team can be
Beautiful.
down by 8, right?
They
Just-
come back. They come
You
back
look at
within
when
a
Syracuse
minute.
made the Final
Exactly.
Four a few years ago when they
Against
beat West
UVA.
Virginia,
It was
and when
UVA.
they beat Virginia in the Elite Eight. Excuse me.
Oh my god.
That was the best press I've seen in my life.
Exactly. And 1 minute left in the game is so much time in college basketball.
Uh-huh.
Compared to the NBA, that's so
We
much
saw
time.
3 or 4 years ago when Texas Tech, I think, was playing Northern Iowa.
Yep.
They were down 12 with 40 seconds left.
A&M.
Texas A&M was playing
Yep.
Northern Iowa. Excuse me. They were down 12 with 45 seconds left and won in overtime.
Exactly.
I had that UNI team go to the Elite Eight, and I might have thrown my remote across the room.
Oh my
I was
God.
so mad.
Oh, that's rough.
So for me, I see a lot of. I actually like this region. This is a fun region because I like to see a team like Oregon and UCI play each other. To me, that's a fun.
That's what I'm
matchup.
saying.
I'm a fan of that matchup. Wisconsin and Kansas State, where they're seated, I don't know. I'm not an expert in this, so I'm not gonna try to say like they should have been an 8 seed, but I was really confused by that.
K-State's a good team, though. If they get Dean Wade back, don't say UCI is just going to win this right away.
Yeah,
K-State's a good team. They've
With
had a
Wade.
good year. If Dean Wade plays, they're going to win that game.
Yeah, third best defense
And-
in the nation.
and for
So
me,
that-
Oregon, I like the run that they've made even without Bol Bol,
Bobo!
who would have
No.
been huge
Absolute
for that
legend.
team.
The Lakers. please.
UC
Cole going to be a Laker. Continue.
UCI has great versatility off the bench. They have multiple guys who are close to 7 feet that come off the bench, don't even start. You know, I'm gonna surprise some of you guys here, but for me, I have Villanova going to the Final Four.
Wow.
That's what I have.
All right.
Bold.
So we know Milan's wasting $10 in our pool.
All right.
Thank you for the
We
free
just-
$10, bud.
we just
Listen,
said-
this could change, but as of right now, right? Okay, so just listen. This could change, but I have Villanova making a deep run in this tournament. I like the seeding that they got. I like the format. I do like Tennessee. I agree with you guys. I'm not trying to clown on Tennessee or Virginia. I think they're going to go
Holy.
far themselves. But as of right now, for me, I have Villanova playing North Carolina.
What makes you think Villanova can stop the Admiral, the Alien,
I was
and
going to say the same exact thing.
Here's my point. When I watched Villanova last year, okay, what they
Which was
did,
last year, but continue.
No, I'm not trying to say that they have the same players as last year. Here, just hear me out and you'll
Let him
understand my
finish,
point.
let him finish.
Okay? So, what they do a really good job of is finding out what zone they need to run and executing it to perfection. They have a lot of great system players. And what they do a good job of is they have so many different looks. So I watched them in the Big East, right? They had their championship game was a 2 4-point game.
Mhm.
To me, that's not the best thing to have happen.
They
I
played a great
understand.
game, though.
Yeah. The point is, though, I like the idea of Jay Wright having great systems to shut down a team like Purdue, who has a guy in Haas and Carson Edwards that are threats. I think they're going to game plan correctly. I think they're going to have good zones. I like their defense, and I think if they shut teams down in college basketball, if you hold a team, which happens a lot, to a low shooting percentage, like 20-30%, I think this team has a chance. They are worse than last year. Right now, that's my dark horse.
I agree with what you said. Like Jay Wright has a lot of great players who fit a system, can run the zone, whatever he wants. Yes, you're 100% right. But that zone is going to shut down 2, maybe 3 guys. Tennessee has 5 guys they can rely on to put up double-digit points. They have 5 guys
Yep.
who average in the double digits, who are all veterans. They're all upperclassmen. Yes, they could shut down 1 or 2, maybe even 3 guys. I still think Tennessee would have enough to pull it off.
So for me, Milad, you said you have Villanova versus North Carolina, and then you have Duke versus Michigan in your Final Four?
I'm in a toss-up between Michigan and Gonzaga. Right now, if you're asking me right now, on my bracket when I'm looking at it, I have Duke, Gonzaga, Villanova, North Carolina.
All right, so I think everyone, Milad just shared his. Let's go around and share. We just talked about all the regions. Final Fours and your NCAA champion. For me, I've got North Carolina coming out of the Midwest, Tennessee coming out of the South, Duke coming out of the East, and Texas Tech coming out of the West. I have Duke beating Texas Tech, North Carolina beating Tennessee, and I have UNC winning the national championship. I just think UNC is unstoppable this year. I really can't see them losing.
I have UNC winning the national
Right.
championships as well.
I have Tennessee against North Carolina. I think Tennessee's going to move on. And then Duke and Nevada in the Final Four.
Wow.
Yes, I know. It's bold.
And you guys were
but-
laughing at my Villanova pick.
I think it's better
Jordan-
than Villanova.
No, I
No.
do not think it's better
Hey,
than Villanova.
I like
I think
Nevada.
it's better than Villanova, but I think it's still pretty
What?
dumb.
Now it's
No.
Duke and Tennessee. I think Duke is just going to obliterate them in the Final Four.
Well-
But I think it's going to be Duke and Tennessee.
Well,
You think
so
that-
Here's the I think a Duke-Tennessee matchup is fascinating
So Tennessee
because I
is
think
Jordan's
Tennessee.
champion.
No. Oh, yeah.
Tennessee's
yeah.
Jordan's
I think
champion.
Tennessee is the most well-rounded team Duke
Yes,
has faced
exactly.
all year.
You
If that-
can't
if that-
beat
Well,
the
I mean,
bone,
Duke-
the Admiral.
so-
I don't think
And
they'd be
Alien.
able to stop all 3.
so
And the other 2 extra guys in, I'm blanking on names right now.
Tennessee.
Bowden,
Bowden and Turner. I don't think they'd be able to slow them all down. I think Tennessee would pull it off.
but so I think we can all agree here that the 2 most well-rounded teams in the nation are Tennessee and North Carolina.
Yes.
We all agree
Yes.
on
Yeah.
Absolutely.
that. Okay, so here's my Final Four.
I think you got to give Gonzaga some credit there.
Okay, right, Gonzaga's right there. Okay,
But-
so here's my
You
final.
put all 3 of those in the top 3.
Here's my Final Four.
Tom speak.
I got Duke, Gonzaga, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Tennessee faces Gonzaga in the final, and I got the Zags beating them. Josh, please do not tell me you have the same Final Four.
Exact same thing.
Oh my gosh.
Exact same thing.
Dude, that'd be so crazy. Maybe we should just keep the same bracket. Hope we win. And we can split the money. Split first and second.
I think here's what I'm
we'll
saying.
talk later, Dom. But I think that's just Gonzaga's too good. No one's gonna slow them down in the West. They're just too well-rounded.
Mhm.
They're
See,
a
that's
great
funny
team.
you say that. I have Florida State playing Texas Tech in my Elite Eight.
Do you think Florida State could beat Gonzaga?
I think they can.
I like Florida State.
Dude, listen,
if Gonzaga
it's
doesn't
March.
make it out.
Anyone can beat
Correct.
anyone except for a
Correct.
16 beating of one. And don't tell me about UMBC. That was such a fluke. Listen,
Hey,
Hey,
won't happen
that
again
one
for
guy
another
made a
25
ton of
years.
money. But one guy who bet on UMBC.
I've been on UMBC
With
on
the
the
spread.
spread. I'm a loser.
A 16 seed will not win against a 1 seed for another 25 years.
I
At
agree.
least.
But
After last year, no 1 seed ever wants to be Virginia again.
okay, so now that have we all named our Final Four, right?
Yep.
Yes.
We all
Okay.
named our champion too.
What?
We all named our champion
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, I know. But so let's one last thing before we round up this podcast. Everyone's Loyola Chicago, starting with Josh.
We're going Final Four with a
Yeah.
So, it's
so
gotta be a
Final
double-digit
Four
seed.
double-digit seed, or
Yeah.
12 or higher, it's Loyola Chicago. Right?
Loyola was an 11.
Oh, sorry, 11 or higher then.
Final Four with a double-digit seed. Let's be honest, that's not gonna happen again. I just don't see any team in the field that's compares to Loyola Chicago. A and B could take down these heavyweights in Duke, Gonzaga, UNC, Virginia, Kentucky, Tennessee, whoever. But if a team's gonna do it, it's gonna be a team A in a weaker region, and B that's just very unorthodox and unusual to the big name that they face. And I think that's Belmont.
Took the words right out of my mouth.
Same.
I was going to say for me, because remember, you're talking about an LSU team without their coach and assistant coach, a Michigan State team that suffered, obviously wasn't their best player, but it was still a key injury. So you have two teams that if Belmont can get out of their first, and Maryland's a weak team, if Belmont can get out of that first matchup in Maryland, face LSU, potentially beat them, and then potentially play Michigan State, who's also beaten up, you could see them playing Duke in the Elite Eight.
Mhm.
And I think Belmont just has the not easiest.
That bottom half of the East region is just,
It's a wild card.
it's a wild card.
I literally cannot tell you. I would not. That's
So the thing about it is, it could be a really strong region, but it also could be a very weak
exactly.
region.
Correct.
You don't know what's going to happen. Just to shake it up, though, I'll give you another team that I really think besides Belmont, and I just think it's Murray State because with John
That's my
Morant,
second.
you can't count them out. They have that guy. He's potentially I think he's the third best player in the NCAA. You can even make an argument like his potential going forward in the NBA is up there with RJ and Zion. He's phenomenal, and obviously they're not a deep team. You know, they got in on the auto bid.
They've got that one big guy who's nice. I forget his name, but he's nice.
But
He's a big kid.
ultimately,
You have got your computer.
He's a
pull up
big
his
kid.
name.
ultimately, Murray State has a very hard road. Marquette, I think, is a fantastic team that no one's giving enough credit to. I
They
really
lost
think
to
with
Villanova.
Howard, Marquette's a good team.
Well, Howard made one field goal against Villanova in the Big East tournament. One field
I
goal.
know.
There's two things with that.
He
First,
shot 90% on free throws, but
First, that goes to my point on matchups and how well Villanova does
Oh
with
my
matchups.
God, here's Nova. again.
Second,
Oh, good
no,
lord.
that's not the point. Second, Marquette. I mean, you were talking about Duke being a
Darnell
2.5
Howard's
man
the kid
team.
from Murray State.
What is Marquette?
Absolute legend.
If Duke is a 2.5
Marquette's a
man
one-man
team,
team.
yeah. So
and John Morant's a better one-man team. Is the funny
exactly,
thing.
yeah,
Sorry, but Murray State. I just called
Yeah,
him John
yeah.
Morant. That's the point.
yeah.
Is they are John Morant. So I think Murray State could make a run. I'm not sold. I agree with Josh. I don't think there's a Loyola Chicago this year. I think that last year the tournament was not.
well, they were in the South region, and in the South region, the top
Virginia.
4 seeds, none of them made
I know.
the Sweet 16.
Mhm.
Of course, they beat Tennessee, who was the 3 seed. So credit to them for knocking them off. But
Also, obviously, March Madness is deep every year. This for me has been one of the deepest years.
This is, in my opinion, the hardest year to pick in recent memory.
I
Yep.
agree. You have so many good teams on the top. 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s. And again, like expanding on that, I just think that this year is really hard to pick, and I don't see a double-digit seed making the final.
I think we all agree with that. So I'm going to change this question up a little bit. Let's go 5 seed or higher. Who's most likely to make the Final Four?
5 seed
Auburn.
or higher.
Auburn. To me, that's easy. I mean, yeah, there's other 5 seeds.
Not
or higher.
Villanova?
Look,
Not Villanova?
for me, I'd say I like Auburn more.
You didn't put Auburn in your actual Final Four.
Yeah, I know. I'm just saying 5 seed or higher as a dark horse. For me, I
Oh
really
my
do
God.
like Auburn, but yeah, I like Villanova too. I could see Auburn facing Villanova. I don't know, but My point is this,
Please,
okay?
please put
Listen.
that, please.
Hold on. Just listen to me, okay? For me personally, when I just think on a straight point, 5 seed or higher, for me it's Auburn.
No, I'm giving you a hard time. I agree.
I know. I don't look. Auburn has a tougher road, so that's why I picked
Oh.
Villanova. But I really think Auburn.
Like I said,
could
Harper
go
and Brown, I think
0
could
to
be the
100.
best guard duo in the country. I think they definitely
Yeah.
have what it takes to get it done.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
So I want to give my Loyola Chicago because I did not get the opportunity to say it. UC Irvine haven't lost in 2
I agree with
months.
you.
They could end up facing Oregon in the round of 32, and then probably play UVA in the Sweet 16. They'll have a
Hey,
couple.
don't count Gardner Webb out.
Yeah, Josh and I actually have a 20-1 odds on that game, so I basically get a free $1.
It's $1. I'll take my chances for it.
Yeah, I mean nothing wrong with that, but and if UC Irvine can shoot the ball well against UVA, I think they've got a good shot.
And for me, I'd say the same thing, except I'd say the winner of the Oregon UC Irvine game.
Yeah.
So for me, the winner of that game really has a shot, and I think could shock some people if there's going to be a Loyola Chicago.
And then my 5 seed or lower to possibly make the Final Four. You guys can already guess. It's the Wolfpack,
Yes.
Nevada.